You're listening to episode number 23 of the Everything Ham Radio podcast. This episode we're going to be talking about portable stations, and a little later we're going to be talking about the Kent Amateur Radio Society for our Amateur Radio Club Spotlight out of Chestertown, Maryland. So, stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Everything Ham Radio podcast. This is episode number 23, which we're going to be talking about portable stations today. We're kind of continuing on with our HF talks, things to do on HF, and we're doing a little mini-series on Field Day. And part of Field Day is a portable station. And by portable, I'm talking about things that aren't like, permanently set up. They're like temporary, stuff like that. So, portable stations, that's what we're going to be talking about. So, in a portable station, there are three things that you need. The trifecta of a station, so to speak. The first one of the trifecta is your radio. Now, without your radio, there's really no station. There's no point in getting the other two things. So, your radio, that's your number one most important thing, I would say. When it comes to your radio, you have a couple options. Is this portable station going to be used for like a SOTA activation, or maybe National Parks on the Air, or Field Day, or maybe a natural disaster? All these things come into play when you're setting up your portable station. And, I would think that a lot of people have different setups for different things. Now, if you're talking about National Parks on the Air, or SOTA, or something like that, something that you want light and easy to carry, then you might want to choose a radio that is basically the same thing. You might want to choose one that, will run on DC power, because you might not have a power source out there. You need to think of something probably that doesn't transmit as much power output, maybe like 10 watts or something or less, because you're going to have limited power supply. So, probably one of the hottest and most growing radios out there for this type of thing was actually just released at Dayton this year, and it's the KX3 from Elecraft. There is a link on the show notes to the Elecraft K3 that you can buy, and it's a nice little radio. It will do 6 meters all the way up to 160 meters, and it transmits up to 10 watts peak to peak. And with that 10 watts, it actually only draws like 150 milliamps. Yeah, you heard me right. 150 milliamps. And it's a nice radio. It has a really nice screen, big knobs that are easy to turn. It's really neat. And even has a built-in little, kind of like a rubber duck antenna on it. So it's really nice. As far as price-wise goes, I'm not really sure how much they are. I'm trying to look it up here real fast while I'm talking, and I'm not having much luck at actually finding the price of it. And no, I don't see the price. So, maybe I'll have it in the show notes of what the price is. But yeah, the Elecraft K3 is a neat little radio, and it only weighs like 1.5 pounds, which is 0.7 kilograms. So that's like, the weight of your maybe your TV remote, or a fairly good sized book, or maybe even like a can of soda or something, or a bottle of soda. It's not very much. It's very light, and it will do all modes. It'll do CW, single sideband, AM, FM, data, and like I said, it'll do 6 meters all the way up to 160 meters, and there's also a module you can buy to do 2 meters as well. So it's a really neat little radio, and I wish I could find the price for it, but I can't. So on the flip side of that, if you're looking for a radio for a station for, say, like for field day, or for, I don't know, say like your communications trailer or something like that, then you can go a little bit bigger. You can go something that has maybe a little more bells and whistles, even though the K3 has quite a few bells and whistles. And when it comes to that, it's all personal preference. Do you want Kenwood? Do you want Yaesu? Do you want ICOM? What do you want? And if you're looking at, putting it in like a communications trailer, a lot of factors come into play. Are you going to be running off a generator? Are you going to have access to emergency power or to commercial power? Are you looking at running off of solar power? All these things come into play when you're looking at your radio. But then again, it's also personal preference, because if you are setting up a communications trailer or setting up a station for field day, you're going to have, more than likely a generator. Maybe you'll run off a bank of batteries and solar panels and stuff like that, but, a lot of people, especially for field day, probably use generators or some other method of getting power where you're not so limited to what you can have. So, anyways, that is the radios. The next on the trifecta of a portable station is your antenna. Now, without an antenna, your radio is pretty much useless. And without an antenna, since your radio is useless, you don't have to worry about power. So, your antenna, what are you going to use? Again, the question it needs to be asked as to what your station is going to be. Are you going to be for SOTA or National Parks in the Air? Are you going to be for field day, for a communications trailer, for a natural disaster? What? How easy is it going to be to carry an antenna to wherever you're going? Does it need to be something that can stick in a backpack? Or, can it be just the back of your truck and you take, 10 trips to set up your station? What is it going to be? How easy is it going to be to set up your station for wherever you're going? So, if you're looking at things like National Parks in the Air or SOTA or something like that, where you don't want to take a lot of trips to get all your equipment set up, or just one for like SOTA, which is something that's on the air, and I did a episode on that several episodes ago. I believe it was episode number, I want to say number 18. And I go into all this. Okay, I just looked it up real fast, and actually my Summits on the Air was number 17. There's a little 3-part series, National Parks in the Air, which is 16, Summits on the Air is 17, and Special Event Stations are 18. There's a lot of other information that are on those podcast episodes and the show notes to those out. Okay, so anyways, antennas. If you're looking at something for SOTA or National Parks in the Air, or something that is going to be limited on what you can carry, my recommendation is that you go with the PAC10, and especially the PAC10 Mini, because it is a really awesome little antenna. And they actually have 2 separate ones. They have a 9-to-1 PAC10 Mini, which is the yellow one, and they have a 40-to-1 PAC10 Mini that is a black one. The 9-to-1, the yellow wrapping PAC10 Mini, is more versatile, from my understanding. It will do multiple bands easier, and it works with an antenna tuner better, and stuff like that. The black one, the 40-to-1, basically what you're going to do is you're going to cut the end of the wire that is on it down to like a half wavelength for 20 meters, I believe. and the antenna is basically going to be good for 20 meters. You might be able to tune in for like 10 or some other lower band, but it's going to be predominantly for your 20 meters, which is still good because 20 meters is a nice band, and it's where a lot of contacts are made. So 20 meters is good, and this thing is literally the size of your hand. I mean, there is a picture on the show notes of what this PAC10 Mini is, the one that George sent me several episodes ago, back in episode 16 and 17 when I had the giveaway. And it is very, very small, and it really surprised me when I opened up the box and looked at it. But anyways, the PAC10 Mini, it is a real nice radio. It is a workhorse. I've heard several things about it, how people love the way that it performs, and it's really easy to set up. It's really small. So if you're looking for something that's light, portable, and is a workhorse of an antenna, check out the PAC10 Mini. There is a link in the show notes in this episode. If you are talking about something like field day, of course you can use the PAC10 Mini or the PAC10, either version of it. But maybe you want to go with something a little bit bigger for whatever reason. Maybe you want to go with a Yagi antenna, or maybe you want to go with a dipole antenna, or an in-fed dipole, or an inverted V, or a long wire, or whatever. Something that's maybe a little bit bigger, and that's maybe more, dare I say, like maybe traditional antenna over something that's small and portable and like brand new. Is it better? Maybe not necessarily. I was actually listening to George over on the Ham Radio 360 podcast there with Kale and Jeremy, and they were talking about field day in this last episode, and one of them, I don't remember if it was George or if it was Jeremy, was talking about how last year at field day they had their stations set up and their antennas set up, and sometime over the middle of the night something happened to one of the antennas or something, and the people that were there quickly set up the PAC10 Mini that they had brought, and it was using it, and the next morning they were telling them how good it did, how quiet it was, and really were like, saying how good this PAC10 Mini was. So whether you want to use that or whether you want to use some traditional, air quotes here, traditional antenna for your bigger station, that's up to you. Space-wise, maybe you want to use like a vertical or something like that. And it might be a little easier. I know in my club, shortly after we started, we had this old, I want to say it was like a bread truck, that type of boxy style truck. And we used that as our communications van. It was a pain in the butt to drive, and it really didn't have a very good air conditioner, so it was fun. And of course, I was one that got to drive it most of the time. But anyways, we had this communication van set up, and on the back bumper, we had these two little pedestal type things that we had designed that we could take a push-up pole and slide over it, and that would be the base of the antenna, or the base of the push-up pole that we mounted the antennas to. And we had, I believe it was like a 20-foot one and a 30-foot push-up pole that we would put a dual band vertical for 2 meter and 440 on, and one for an HF antenna. And we had I want to say it was like a 20 meter ham stick, or a 40 meter vertical, I don't remember which it was, on the top of it. And then we also had a long wire, or an inverted V, that we would bring up on a pulley. And that's what we'd use for antennas. So if that's what you want to do, then, hey, great, more power to you. I mean, space-wise, a vertical takes up a whole lot less than the PAC10 Mini will, because the PAC10 Mini, if I'm not mistaken, when you cut it down to size, the wire length is like 38 foot or 36 foot, something like that. So it takes up quite a bit of space, and you got to find a place to put it. But with the vertical, you're talking, 5 foot, 6 foot long, and it's way up in the air, and you ain't got to worry about it too much. So your antennas, figuring out what you're going to do, figure out what you're doing it for, or what your antenna is going to be used for, and that's what your decision is going to be made on. On to the third topic, or the third part of the trifecta, and that's power. And we did talk in length about emergency power last episode, so I'm not going to cover a whole bunch on it this episode. But emergency power, or power period, is going to be your third part of your trifecta for your portable station. Now, are we going to be doing, on this portable station, are you going to be using a battery? Are you going to be using it for, like, National Parks in the Air or SOTA? If you are, then you're going to be looking at, some kind of battery power, some kind of solar power, or something like that to power your radios. So you're going to need something light. You're going to need something that'll last a little bit, and that's not going to be like super duper heavy to carry on your one trip up to wherever you're going to be operating from. If you're going to be looking at something like a communications trailer or field day or something like that, then maybe you're going to be talking about a generator. Now, a generator you're not going to be able to haul up to some summit to work SOTA. So, that would not be a good thing for that type of application. But for one like field day, or say you're going camping or something, you might get this generator, and especially if you get like the little Honda generators or something that are super duper quiet, then the generator will work. Now, if you're going to be doing something like, say, for a disaster or something, and your portable station is going to be used at, say, like the Red Cross building, or a hospital, or something like that, where you probably will have access to commercial power, then great. You don't need anything else. You don't need a battery. You don't need a generator. You don't need solar panels. You don't need a wind turbine or whatever. You're going to have something to plug into, and you're going to operate it like you normally do out of your house. But all these things vary on what you're going to be doing. You got your solar power, you have your wind power, you have your generator, and you have your commercial power. And I'm sure there's some things that I missed. I mean, I even said something like a human power in the last episode. So check that out. It's episode number 22. And I talk all about it in that. So that about wraps it up for the topic of today. So we're going to go ahead and move on to a couple other things. So for the announcements of this episode, I have told you all in the past, and I'm probably going to be telling y'all for quite some time, and I've actually noticed some people that are actually coming over from this podcast. My wife recently started a new blog, and it's been, I guess, a couple months ago now, but since it is my wife, and since I do actually write on it, I'm going to share it. Our new blog that we started, and that is predominantly my wife, is called More Than Safe, and it is about our journey through being foster parents. It's about talking about some of the things that have happened to us, some general topics of discussion on just parenting, and it's going to be a whole lot more. There's quite a few plans on it as to what it's going to be. So currently it is just some blogs, and we have several blog posts on there. Talking about some of our placements that we've had, talking about some general topics of discussion. And I hope that some of y'all have gone there and have checked it out and found it interesting. If you want to go there, it's morethansafe.com, and there is a link in the show notes. So head on over there if you're interested and check it out. If you like it, please subscribe to the email list. You can find it in the right toolbar or at the bottom of any post. So check those out. as far as this blog goes, I've kind of come to a crossroads on what exactly I'm going to do. I am going to continue to do this because I love doing this podcast, and I love doing the blog. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of things come up that has really limited my time. And I have said in the past, not necessarily on a podcast episode, but in my blog posts that I do, that I want to try and do a podcast episode every week and a blog post every week. Unfortunately, I haven't done a very good job of that. And it's getting harder and harder, especially with writing on my wife's blog, on the More Than Safe blog, and doing some other stuff, and taking care of the 5 kids that we have, and the new house, and the 14 acres that we have. It's getting harder and harder to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down just the podcast, I think, probably, and a few bonus posts in my thing. So that is what I'm going to do. If you'd like to support me and help me out, there are several ways you can do it. At the bottom of every show note, there's a donate button that you can donate through PayPal. You can also go to Patreon. If you go to everythinghamradio.com/Patreon, that's Patreon. And you can become a monthly subscriber. You can subscribe $1 a month, or $5 a month, 10, 25, whatever you choose to do, and you can cancel at any time. And what this will do is help me to pay my hosting bills, pay my email hosting bills, my podcast hosting bills, all these bills that I have every month. It'll help me greatly. So if you choose to just make a one-time donation or make a monthly contribution through Patreon, I would greatly appreciate it. The other thing that you can do is help me is go through Amazon. I am affiliate with Amazon. And you go to everythinghamradio.com/support, and there's a link on the menu at the top of the page. You can find all these links on how you can support this podcast. If you go to Amazon and you go through my web store, then I get a certain percentage of what you buy. It's it's not much. It's like 4% right now. Maybe 4 or 6. I think it goes up to like 10%. And different items are different things. So if you want to help out my blog and my podcast, there is actually some instructions on there that you can add to your bookmark if you have Amazon bookmark. This does not cost you anything. It does not raise the price of anything for you. It's just kind of it's an affiliate to it. So head on over there to everythinghere.com/support, and make your contribution, make your donation, or just shop at my store on Amazon. I guess that's about it for the announcements. We're going to do one more time on the public service announcement put out by the ARRL for Field Day, because this weekend is going to be Field Day. Next week we're going to have kind of a wrap-up post, I think. I am going to try and go to one of my local clubs here. I was hoping to make several of them this year. Unfortunately, some things happen here at work, and I'm having to work at a time that I normally don't. So I'm not going to have extra time on Saturday night. But anyways, we're going to do that public service announcement, and then the wrap-up post next week will be our topic for the podcast. So, anyways, on to that.
For over 100 years, radio has been at the forefront of new technology. Ham radio operators around the world will have their annual Field Day event June 25th and 26th. Field Day is the national open house of amateur radio, and you are invited. Come be a part of the science, skill, and service ham radio brings to your community. Find a Field Day site near you at www.arrl.org/fieldday.
Alrighty, and we're back. That is a really nice public service announcement that they made. It is. It's really nice. And I thank the ARRL for allowing me to put it on my podcast for you, my listeners, to hear it. The last part of this podcast episode is going to be over our Amateur Radio Club Spotlight. And this month, it is on the Kent Amateur Radio Society in... let's see, where are we at this year? We're in Maryland. It is in Chestertown, Maryland. You can find their website at k3ars.org. That's a really neat little call sign. Kent 3 Amateur Radio Society. So k3ars.org. You can find the link in the show notes, of course. Their meetings they held regularly on the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. at the Heron Point of Chestertown at 501 East Campus Avenue in Chestertown, Maryland. And it is located in the conference room. So if you're going to be in Chestertown, Maryland, or somewhere around Maryland, D.C. area on the first Wednesday of the month, head on over there, check out their club. They also have nets every Tuesday at 8 p.m., and it's held on the 147.375 repeater. Speaking of their repeaters, they have two. And they have the 147.375 repeater. It has a 156.7 tone and also has an auto patch in it. I remember back in the day when I was in college, the repeater that I used while I was in college had an auto patch, and I didn't have a cell phone at the time, so I would use that to order pizza. It was pretty cool. Of course, everybody knew what I was having for lunch, but anyways. It is located at the Kent County High School, and it links to several other repeaters in Rock Hall, Galena, Chestertown, and Betterton. So it has a handheld coverage for all of Kent County. It is a Motorola MTR2000 repeater, and it has a DB Products antenna with it. It has a effective radiated power of 200 watts. The link controller is an Arcom RC210 with an LDG RJS-8 voter. Whew, that's a mouthful. They also have a 449.175 repeater. It also has a 156.7 tone, and it's located on the tower adjacent to Chester River Hospital. It offers handheld coverage for all the Charlestown area. It is also a Motorola MTR2000 with a DB product antenna and has effective radiated power of 200 watts. So what does this club do? They actually do quite a bit. They do field day, of course, like most clubs do. They have bike races, walkathons, and several other type of events that they help in. They have e-testing, and they have several APRS involvement as well. They have two nodes that work on APRS in different parts of the area, so they have pretty good coverage. So yeah, this seems like a really nice club. They have a really nice website, so head on over there and check it out. Again, the address is in the show notes, but it is at k3ars.org. So, very good, and that about wraps it up for this episode. So, thank you for listening, and 73. Hey everybody, once again I'd like to say thank you for listening to this episode of the Everything Ham Radio podcast. You can find the show notes for this episode at everythinghamradio.com/podcast/23. That's the number 23. And on those show notes, you'll find a whole bunch of additional information, some pictures, even a video or two, I believe, is on there, as well as any of the links that we've talked about, and several others that we haven't. So head on over there to the show notes, check them out. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Also, what kind of portable stations do you have set up? That would be awesome for me to hear, and I would greatly appreciate it. Also, with Field Day coming up, I believe the next episode we're going to have kind of a wrap-up of Field Day. I'm going to try to make one of my local things, maybe get an interview or two, and go from there. So leave a comment below. Let me know how your field day went or is going to go, and all that good stuff. So, yeah. If you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/everythingradio. You can also follow me on Twitter at K5CLM. Those are my two main social media pages. I do have several others at StumbleUpon, LinkedIn, and Google Plus, I believe, that I am also on. You can find links to those under social on the menu bar on the website. So if you don't do Facebook or you don't do Twitter and you do one of the others, head on over there to get the links for those. Also, please rate and leave a honest review of what you think of this podcast episode. You can go to everythinghamradio.com/iTunes. That will take you directly there, and you can leave a comment. So I guess that about wraps it up for this episode. I want to say big thanks to everybody that listens, and for all of those that leave comments and likes and share my episodes. So thank you very much. If you haven't done so, please share, like, subscribe, all that great stuff. And until next time, this is K5CLM 73.